Hi, Alistair Atkin here from Atkin Guitars. Do you want to see something crazy good? I'm going to take you on a little journey around the corner from our workshop here in Hersden. We're really lucky that we have some cool people around here. I'm going to take you to meet a friend of mine who he's actually a little bit famous. You might have seen him on the repair shop. He repairs quite a lot of the musical instruments and sort of toys and things like that. His name's David Burville. He has got the most crazy workshop and he's literally a stone's throw from here, so come on round. It's actually quite good here because just next door is another friend of ours who's a cabinet maker as well. And right here there's guys who make 10-pin bowling alleys, so there's some crazy stuff down here. But this is David's door, so let's hopefully still in. Hello, David. Which, up or down?
Up if you like.
So this is David Burville, and what exactly is your job title?
Well, I'm actually a mechanical organ builder by trade.
Okay.
So I started in church organ building.
Yeah.
And which are obviously the keyboard type.
Yeah.
But then I did an apprenticeship in Antwerp in Belgium on these things, which are mechanical organs, and they're like a church organ. They use pipes and air and that sort of thing, but they play using punch cardboard music.
So that old-fashioned thing that at Christmas you'd see those little sort of,
same principle.
Yeah.
And it basically they evolved into these things.
Now, these things are insane, and I don't know if we can actually capture what it's like in the room, but there is nothing better, is there?
No.
Every so often I'll come up and see David and he'll show me one of these contraptions and I'm like, oh my God, there's nothing that makes you feel happier either than standing next to it, is it? It just puts a big smile on your face. Yeah. But should we hear it first?
Yeah.
And then we can have a little chat about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll put you one on.
Yeah. So it's kind of whirring up. You can just hear it. Is that air I can hear, David?
Yep. So that's an electric blower.
That's just an electric blower. I don't know if you're picking that up.
Here we go.
But watch all this. You can see the fingers moving. Saxophone. Mega. It's absolutely mega. That's bonkers, isn't it?
It's a mad machine.
So this would have been in a coffee house or something, would it?
Yeah, literally cafes in Belgium. I mean, they were on every street corner. They were everywhere, and everyone would have had an organ like this, varying sizes.
Yeah.
This is a sort of middle-sized one. They did smaller versions and right up to big dance organs, which were actually in the dance halls.
Yeah.
And they would have been sort of 28, 30 feet across.
Mike.
And again, 17 foot tall to fill an end wall.
It's how did it come about?
It was an evolution, basically. The as you mentioned before, the little cylinder musical boxes.
Yeah.
They had organs which worked on barrels,
Right.
And basically that technology got into about the 1880s, but it was limited because you could only have so many tunes on a barrel.
Right. Yeah.
The barrels were large, cumbersome.
Yeah.
If you wanted to change the tunes, you had to change the entire barrel.
Yeah.
So this system was an actual evolution of the weaving loom system invented by Jacquard, and it was a man called Gavioli in Paris, and he adapted it to play onto the organ. So this is the actual music.
So that's what you would have found, because this isn't one of those anymore, is it?
No, this plays on both systems. So
right.
this plays on this punch card, on the original pneumatic punch card system.
Yeah.
But this organ has actually been fitted with a computerised system which uses MIDI.
So it's it's actually, so you could sync this up to all sorts of things, couldn't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know, if you want to come and do a session, did you ever do any sessions?
I haven't done, but
Wouldn't that be amazing? If you want one of these on your album, it could literally be recorded in it, couldn't it?
Yeah.
That's bonkers. And you were saying the other day that all the music, there's companies that actually specialise in creating this music.
Yeah, absolutely. And the technology, I mean, these were at the time the most advanced things because these predate computers.
Right.
So these are pneumatic computers, effectively.
Wow.
And then basically the technology has gone round full circle. And so now with the MIDI control, and then you can integrate electronics into the instrument. So you can have electronic voices, percussion, you know, all of your controls. That means that you can literally do anything with these things and sync them to anything. And
that's
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah.
So if you can you go to one of those companies and say, I want to have this song
Literally,
transcribed for me?
Yeah,
And
anything.
what do they charge to do something like that?
It varies. I mean, with the MIDI, direct to MIDI, it's actually cheaper because you haven't got the punching of this card. On the card, it varies. I mean, something like this would probably be £100.
Okay.
But when you think that will last, I mean, we've got music from older instruments. Which is over 100 years old, and it still plays. Man. So, but the MIDI side of things, literally any music you want,
it can be done.
You can,
And are there any constraints on the instruments? Obviously,
it varies on the size of the instrument. So this works on what we call 72 keys.
Right.
So it's not 72 notes.
No.
It's actually more than that.
Right.
So the organ would have probably 400 pipes. Mm-hmm. But that's all controlled from these 72 notes or 72 keys. Basically, this organ is 8 bass, so it's not chromatic. So you're within the confines of that. Your different sections, so you've got a melody section, a counter melody section, accompaniment and bass, and then percussion. So your melody section on this is about 16 notes. So again, you can't sort of go up and down the octaves.
So you're constrained within.
So, but you know, once you know what the constraints are, then you adapt the music around. You know. Really? So they're clever. Yeah, they're very clever.
So like, how many instruments have we actually got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that right?
So,
and then the drums.
So but then you've got a cabinet behind which contains all the rest of the pipes. So within the cabinet, you've got probably another six or seven voices.
Wow.
Or sets of pipes plus your bass. So they're big pipes to give you the bass, lower bass. It's quite a large sort of instrument, really, because of the era that this one was intended for.
What is that actually?
Well, this
20s or something? Or
no,
30s?
this would have been 1950s.
Oh, okay.
This is actually a replica of a 1950s instrument. So this was built in the 90s, but they were built to mimic dance bands of the time. So of course, typically on the continent, accordions were a big thing. You know, very popular. Saxophones. So it mimics saxophones.
So were people up in arms about these when they came out? Going,
well,
I haven't got a gig anymore.
That was a problem. Because it did, you know. But the thing was that you only had to pay one unskilled person to feed the music through. And very often these ones, particularly in the cafes, they were totally automatic.
Right.
So you had a continuous loop of music, which would give you sort of 30 tunes. And then you had a coin box, and you put a coin in like a jukebox.
That is the first jukebox.
Literally, literally. So yes, they were, you know, definitely a rival to the band. But
then the outlay for something like this for a cafe back then must have been huge. Right?
It would have been. But again, the thing was that, you know, it would play day and night. It wouldn't go wrong necessarily.
Wouldn't nick out for a fag,
no,
or see a pretty lady and go, I'm off.
So they were, you know, it was robot music, you know, and but So they did a job, you know. They did an important job, sort of thing. And
So was it mainly in Europe that this was going on? America
Yes.
must have had them as well, I presume.
the Americans had a slightly different version.
Right.
They had what they called orchestrions. You'll hear the term Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Well, that actually comes from pianos that normally had organ pipes as well.
Yeah.
And you put a nickel in it,
Right.
and then that would play,
Right.
you know, like a
Yeah,
smaller
yeah.
version of these. But these were typically the ones on the continent. We didn't have them over here.
Right. Why not, do you think?
I think it supposedly it dated back to an article in the old Punch magazine,
Right, yeah.
and basically it referred to organs, barrel organs at the time, being only used by vagabonds
Oh, right, okay.
to collect money. You see.
Right, right.
And at the time we did have a growing industry,
Yeah.
but it literally finished.
Yeah.
And you only had really the fairground organs that were used in the carousels and that
Yeah.
sort of thing, that carried on, you know. But even they really started to peter out in the 1920s, 30s, whereas these companies on the continent, some of them are still going.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
So would it be quite common to go to, say, any city in Europe and find there might be 3 or 4
Oh, absolutely.
makers like
yeah,
this?
Yeah. I mean, even now, you can still go to cafes in places like Antwerp,
Yeah, yeah.
Brussels, and still see them working.
Right.
You know, they're actually still being used, and yeah.
Part of your job presumably is you go out to do
I
servicing
do go
and
out,
stuff,
yeah. I mean, I get all over the place, really. It's quite a global thing.
Yeah.
The majority tend to be either in museums or private collection. Good because they're preserved, but there aren't many that really work nowadays,
No,
you know.
no.
So,
And you're obviously restoring stuff all the time, aren't you?
oh yeah. So, I mean, we're working on another 1930s Belgian cafe organ at the moment.
Yeah.
That's from a museum up in Scarborough.
Right.
So it's and again they vary in size. So you've got great big ones,
Yeah.
and then we've got little tiny ones like this one that's on the table here.
So that's kind of
that's a hand turned.
Yeah.
And this one it's a modern made. It's only
that's MIDI
maybe,
as well, is
yeah.
it? Yeah.
So that plays on paper rolls.
Yeah.
And you can actually you can see here you've got the paper roll that actually operates it. So similar system to the punch card, and then but this one we fitted a MIDI system to it, so that again you can just stand there, turn the handle, and it goes all day long. Yeah. This down on the floor here, this is actually what we call a keyframe.
Right.
So that is what reads the punch card.
And that gets directed into this.
Yeah, so that's literally a pneumatic interface.
Yeah.
And so that converts
On a belt, is it?
So that turns, draws the music through.
Yeah.
And then when that's locked in place, then the metal pins that you see here, they're spring loaded. So they actually physically read the holes and turn it into a pneumatic signal. So it's quite, you know, this was the most important development in the mechanical organ.
Really?
Because this was the miniaturisation. Everything up until that point was barrel. There's one up there, and there's one over here.
Right. Yeah. Oh, they're huge,
They're
aren't they?
barrels, yeah.
So how many songs? Or no, it's not songs. It's how.
So typically, one song lasts one revolution of the barrel.
Okay. Right.
And you would have 8 to 10 tunes on a barrel. So what it does is the barrel's on a mechanism that allows it to shift sideways.
Yeah.
And so it's literally like tracks on a record.
Okay. Right.
So you'd move it along one track,
and
so you get a different tune.
So I'm trying to work that out. The paper has a tune on it.
Yeah.
But that corresponds with the tune.
Yes.
So you can't use it. You couldn't put this like 100 different sheets of paper on. It wouldn't work with one barrel.
No.
Okay.
No.
Right.
So this was the major leap.
Yeah.
That you can only have 10 tunes.
Okay. So they'd be like, oh God, I really want to hear such and such.
Yeah.
Where's that barrel gone?
Yeah.
And,
And I mean, some instruments you could interchange the barrels.
Yeah.
But it was heavy, it was cumbersome, they're delicate and this sort of thing. These, obviously that's one tune.
Yeah.
So you could have 100 tunes.
Yeah.
and that would only take up the size of a bookcase.
Which is all going through one of those.
Yeah. So
that's the first iPod, basically.
Oh yeah, literally. Yeah, literally.
That's amazing, isn't it?
But they reached a certain size. You couldn't go bigger.
No.
But with this system, I mean, the largest. This is 72 keys. The largest size that was ever built was 125.
Yeah.
And that gives you the sound of an orchestra.
Right.
You know, literally the sound of an orchestra. And so those books, we call them books.
Yeah.
Again, they don't take up too much space.
No.
They're manageable.
Yeah.
And you've got an instrument which is capable of playing
doing anything.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, literally. So
how did you go? Did you learn this in Antwerp then, or did your dad do this as well?
Well, Dad didn't do it commercially.
Right.
Dad inherited a big Belgian dance organ, which was literally 28 foot long, stood 17 foot tall.
Yeah.
That was in a trailer, and we used to travel that around.
Really? So to fairs and stuff?
Fairs. We used to go up to London. We used to go to the National Film Theatre for festivals and Lord Mayor's Festival and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so as a kid, I was with this thing.
Yeah.
And Dad always did the maintenance for the most part.
Yeah.
So I would be there handing him screwdrivers and this sort of thing when I was a little lad. And so it was a natural sort of thing, really. And then the closest I could get to it initially was church organ building.
Yeah.
And that was with a company over at Ash near
I remember
Sandwich.
them.
Yeah, Browns.
Yeah. I think I knew other people who worked there as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the company's still going.
Is it?
Yeah. And it's Manders now.
Right.
And, but I did basically a 3-year apprenticeship with them, which gave me a fantastic grounding. But I had the love for these things, and I was offered an apprenticeship by one of the old companies, Verbex. They were 1884. They started.
Yeah.
So I was offered the apprenticeship with them. So I did 2 further years, specifically in these.
In Antwerp.
Yeah, and it was the best thing I ever did, really.
I bet.
There was nobody at the time in this country that could have offered an apprenticeship like that, and we didn't have old companies here.
How old are you?
So I'm 46.
Yeah, so we're similar age.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the same with my business.
Yeah.
You couldn't go and do an apprenticeship anywhere.
No.
There was the London School of Furniture that I went to.
Yep.
I think they had a piano making. Did you ever spend any time? Did you look at that at all?
No. I know there were 1 or 2 courses, because there was a college that did a sort of an organ course.
Yeah.
But that is all finished at the moment, and it's those sort of niche things which are always the first to go.
Absolutely.
It suffers, which is a shame. But
it does. But it's great that there's people like you. And you were talking about trying to start a course.
Yeah, we're in talks at the moment, and that is to literally do a small mechanical organ course.
Wow.
So it's a sort of an introduction.
Yeah.
Because obviously, as you can see, it's a vast sort of subject, and you've got so many different types and this sort of thing.
You can tell that if you get hooked on something like this, it's a job for life. I mean, I've been in loads of workshops.
Yeah.
But I've not been in a workshop like this.
I've
never seen. I mean, Raph will do a scoot around.
Yeah.
I've never seen. And so you wake up every morning.
Yeah.
And it's like you're in sort of a mad sort of inventor's wonderland.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Because this is the thing, and this is what keeps me going, because primarily my job is restoration and conservation. But I also do a lot of new. Yeah. And of course, you know, it's one of those technologies. It's stopped at a certain point, but it didn't mean to say that you couldn't develop it.
No, you can still innovate along the way.
Yeah. And so this is what I do.
Yeah.
You know, and this is actually the case that you can see there with the black flywheel.
Yeah.
That's actually a brand new instrument that I'm building.
Yeah.
And again, that's a lot of my own ideas. It's great because I get to experiment and play like that in my everyday job, you know, which is wonderful. Great. And I think that's where we're sort of on the same.
Yeah, exactly. You wake up and think, what should I do today? And, but if you were to start that, and if I said to you, right, you're not going to do anything else.
Yeah.
How long would it take you to build that, do you think? I know you don't know at this point, but what's your inkling?
So, I mean, you would literally be probably 6 months to build that.
Start to finish?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, that would be quite intensive. But the idea with these sort of machines, that's a prototype one for a production model.
Right. Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
once you've got that built and sort of reverse engineered, then obviously the production would be a lot quicker.
Would that be your production, or would you then farm it out to somebody else who might be interested?
It depends. I mean, with technology and again, I know you're quite an innovator in all of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, you could build a lot of things using laser cutting,
CNC.
you know, CNC, that sort of thing, which would cut the time down and that, you know. So yeah, and I mean, there are companies that do that.
Yeah.
Even down to actually making CNC built pipes.
Right. That doesn't surprise me. There's no reason why you shouldn't, is there?
No. So
especially if you've got 6 months ahead of you.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah.
How many have you built then?
So I've really only built a handful because I've been primarily in the restoration.
Yeah.
But it's something that, you know, I'm gradually getting into, and various sizes. So this would probably be the larger size that I would do.
Yeah.
Anything bigger than this would be a one-off.
Yeah.
This is the sort of maximum size for a production model. But then the smaller instruments, hand-turned ones, like the one that's on the table, they're a lot easier, a lot better to build, you know, because you can turn them around quite quickly.
Yeah, you can see the difference.
Yeah.
And so how many instruments would that have on it?
So this would have typically around about 200 pipes. So
it won't have accordions, or it'd be a pipe organ.
It is purely a pipe organ. Yes. This one is actually built as a Dutch style street organ.
Okay.
They are still found in the streets in Holland. They're a mellow sound, easy to maintain. Yeah. It's quite a good all-rounder sort of thing, you know. Yeah.
So we were talking the other day as well about what's an organ grinder's monkey, and there's one down there. Well, that's Steve. Steve's dad used to build our guitar necks, actually, like 20 years ago now, isn't it? Yeah. So it's all nice little connections here. But no, Steve actually does a lot of the repairing with you.
Yes, yeah. So it's you know,
great.
Yeah,
it's so lovely to see.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we mentioned it, but you might have seen David on the Repair Shop on the BBC.
For my sins.
And he's been doing that, so you can go and watch him on the iPlayer. And there's lots. I saw you putting a fire truck back together the other day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's the sad thing. I haven't actually, although I'm a mechanical organ builder.
Yeah.
On the show, I started off doing harmonium, so reed organs.
Right. Yeah.
Which I trained in the church organ building side. Yeah. And then that has then gone on the show. And spread into tinplate toys, automatons,
because it all kind of connects somehow.
Well, it does, yeah. I tend to do anything that's made of wood, which is mechanical, right? Because obviously you're dealing with mechanical wooden parts, you know, all the time. Yeah. And so it's a good, you know.
Fascinating.
It's an interesting thing, yeah.
It's bonkers, and it's so nice to know that this is going on.
Well, that's There's not many of us mad enough to do it.
No, it's great that and maybe that course, if it ever comes up, get in touch with us, and I can put you in touch with David. Yeah. If it should arrive, if you're watching this thinking, my God, I never knew that anything like this was out there. I think this is a really good example that we can all do something very cool if we put our minds to it.
Exactly. So, that's it. Yeah.
Hey, brilliant.
Yeah, so you're very welcome. You're
always
very
fun.
welcome.
Always
fun.
No, now, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, like and subscribe, share, and keep it growing. And we'll try and sort of. You might know some cool people around here that we can go and visit as well.
We'll have to find a few.
Exactly. So thanks for watching. Keep watching more videos.